My designation is Viviana Clarkson. At 36, the last report my kin received placed me as a washout from initial military training, allegedly returning home with nothing but a stain on my name and a bus fare. The polished surface of the immense walnut conference table at Wellesley, Thompson and Associates reflected the expectant faces of my extended family, anticipating the reading of my grandmother's last testament. I occupied a chair in the farthest corner, as usual, largely unnoticed, observing my cousin Malia hold court at the head of the assembly. Her achievements were worn like an ornate shield. The gleaming diamond watch, the custom-tailored silk suit, the perfectly calibrated smile that had propelled her through an elite law school and into a partnership at one of the capital's most formidable legal establishments. I am quite certain Grandmother Rhoda designated her estate to an individual who has genuinely forged a path of distinction, Malia declared, her voice carrying that familiar, condescending timbre. She surveyed the room, her gaze briefly settling on me before drifting away with a dismissive flick. Not everyone possesses the fortitude required for authentic responsibility. My Aunt Clarissa offered a vigorous nod of assent. Malia has invariably been the favored prodigy. Even at 8 years old, she was engrossed in legal compendiums while Viviana was content playing in the soil with miniature figurines of soldiers. Mr. Wellesley Thompson, the senior partner, arranged his documents with the solemnity of a man who, over 4 decades, had delivered countless pronouncements that splintered familial bonds. My Uncle Julian drummed his fingers on the table's edge, already mentally calculating his prospective share. My mother sat ramrod straight, her lips compressed into that slender line, signaling her preparation for yet another personal disappointment from me. I recalled our last familial assembly 3 years prior, my cousin's engagement celebration. I had finally received leave after 18 months deployed in regions I was still prohibited from discussing. Yet, upon my entrance into that expansive garden party at the private estate, I was not Brigadier General Viviana Clarkson. I was simply Vivi, the family's perpetual letdown who had attempted the military path and evidently never amounted to much. Still playing at soldiering, I perceive, Malia had remarked that evening, her engagement ring catching the ambient light as she gestured dismissively. When do you intend to acquire a substantive profession? You know, something of actual consequence. Her fiancé, an ambitious junior legislator with clear political aspirations, had chuckled. The armed forces serve a purpose for some, but it's hardly a trajectory for those endowed with genuine promise. I had offered no retort then, merely a polite smile, excusing myself to a secluded conservatory within the estate. There, I spent several minutes examining my reflection, questioning if their assertions held truth, if I had squandered the most vital years of my existence serving a nation that appeared to disregard the extent of my sacrifice. My mother had located me there. Darling, it isn't too late to reconsider academic pursuits. Malia could likely secure an entry-level position for you at her firm. Nothing demanding, but processing documents is honorable labor. Processing documents, I mused, after orchestrating a multinational task force through the formidable terrain of the Hindu Kush, after coordinating sophisticated intelligence operations that preserved American lives, after accruing commendations and stars that my family would never comprehend because I could never disclose the full scope of my endeavors. Mrs. Clarkson, Mr. Thompson's voice drew me back to the present moment. Are you attentive? My apologies, I responded, adjusting my posture in the chair. Kindly proceed. He cleared his throat and recommenced reading. To my cherished granddaughter Malia, who has consistently brought prestige to our family through her legal profession, I bequeath my compendium of first edition judicial treatises and my grandmother's pearl choker. Malia preened, gracefully accepting the family's congratulations. To my grandson Jaden, I bestow my late husband's angling retreat in the Montana wilderness. More murmurs of approval. To my daughter Clarissa, I leave my collection of antique silverware and selected oil paintings, excluding pieces previously specified. My aunt offered a tight smile, clearly anticipating further bequests. And to my granddaughter Viviana. Mr. Thompson paused, his eyebrows ascending as he silently scanned the forthcoming lines. To Viviana, who I always knew would discover her profound purpose, even when others failed to perceive it, I commit the entirety of my remaining estate, encompassing the ancestral homestead, all residual assets, and my complete and unwavering faith in her discernment. The ensuing silence was absolute. That cannot be accurate, Malia interjected, her voice sharp with disbelief. Viviana doesn't even possess a stable occupation. She has been engaged in military drills for 15 years with nothing demonstrable to show for it. She probably earns what? $35,000 a year, Uncle Julian added, if that. She could not possibly administer an estate valued in the millions. My mother's complexion had blanched. Mr. Thompson, surely there's been an error. Viviana, well, she has never been the responsible sort. I felt the familiar sting of mortification ascend in my chest. The identical sensation I had carried throughout my formative years, through family dinners where my accomplishments were trivialized, through telephone conversations where my mother would sigh and inquire when I intended to settle down and pursue a conventional life. But this time, something felt different. This time, I possessed a choice. Mr. Thompson was now observing me with distinct curiosity, his astute legal mind clearly processing information. Miss Clarkson, prior to our progression, I must verify your current professional standing for fiscal purposes. The estate's financial planning necessitates specific documentation correlating to your income bracket. Malia leaned forward eagerly. She's an enlisted service member, likely earning less than my junior paralegal. In point of fact, I stated softly, reaching into my brief. I believe this might clarify matters. I placed my military identification card on the table, face up. Mr. Thompson retrieved it, his eyes widening as he read. He glanced at me, then back at the ID, then at me once more. General Clarkson, he uttered, his voice instantly formal. My deepest apologies. I was unaware. Your grandmother alluded to your service, but she never specified your rank. The appellation general lingered in the air like an unexploded ordnance. That is an impossibility, Malia stammered. She was a basic recruit or something. She washed out of initial training. I never washed out of initial training, I stated calmly. I was selected for officer candidate school after 2 weeks. I graduated at the zenith of my class from the National Defense Academy, earned my master's degree from the War College, and have devoted the past 15 years to serving my country in capacities I remain unable to fully articulate. My mother's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a beached fish. But you telephoned. You conveyed you were experiencing difficulties. I did convey I was experiencing difficulties, I affirmed. Commanding a classified operation in hostile territory tends to present challenges, as does being promoted to brigadier general at 33, rendering me among the youngest flag officers in the armed forces. Uncle Julian gazed at me as if I had suddenly sprouted wings. But your automobile, you operate that antiquated sedan. It is pragmatic, I responded with a slight shrug. I prefer to allocate my resources to investments rather than ostentatious display. My remuneration is, in fact, quite substantial. The foundational pay for a 2-star general approaches $180,000 annually, exclusive of combat pay, housing allowances, and supplementary emoluments. Malia appeared on the verge of nausea. A 2-star? You signify you are Major General Viviana Clarkson? I confirm. Currently serving as Deputy Commanding General of Joint Strategic Operations Command. My direct reporting line extends to the Secretary of Defense. The silence extended, feeling like an eternity. I observed my family's countenances shift through bewilderment, disbelief, and finally, the dawning comprehension of the profound extent to which they had misjudged me. The President is acquainted with you, Malia whispered. We have convened on several occasions, I stated. He personally affixed my 2nd star last month. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. Well, this unequivocally simplifies the fiscal implications. General Clarkson, given your security clearance and executive position, I presume you are eminently capable of managing the estate. I believe so, I replied. I oversee a budgetary allocation of several $billion and direct operations across multiple continents. I am confident I can manage grandmother's property portfolio. My mother finally found her voice. Viviana, why did you never inform us? I regarded her for a prolonged moment, recalling every dismissive comment, every insinuation that I was squandering my life, every family gathering where I was treated as the perennial failure who could not organize herself. You never inquired into my actual occupation, I stated simply. You merely presumed. We're proud of you. Uncle Julian interjected hastily, his tone entirely transformed. We invariably recognized you would achieve something monumental. No, you did not, I responded, not unkindly. You perceived me as a dropout who made ill-advised choices, and that is acceptable. It imparted invaluable lessons regarding whom I can genuinely rely upon. I rose, collecting my documents. Mr. Thompson, kindly transmit the estate papers to my office. My aide will manage the intricacies. Your aide? Clarissa squeaked. Major Anjali Mishra. She orchestrates my schedule and correspondence. Coincidentally, she also possesses a Harvard MBA. I glanced at Malia. I believe she was a few years ahead of you. As I reached the threshold, Malia called out desperately, Viviana, wait. I am truly sorry. I never intended. We are family. I turned back to face them all one final time. They appeared diminished somehow, shrunken by the weight of their own assumptions and biases. You are correct, I stated. We are family, which is precisely why I will ensure grandmother's legacy is handled with due diligence, irrespective of your past conduct towards me. However, do not mistake my professionalism for absolution. I have learned to differentiate between individuals who genuinely support me and those who merely seek to capitalize on my accomplishments. I exited that conference room with my head held high, leaving behind 15 years of familial disappointment and embracing the truth my grandmother had perceived all along. I was precisely the woman I was destined to be. The following morning, my phone chimed. It was my mother. Viviana, sweetheart, I was pondering if perhaps we could share a midday meal. I would truly appreciate hearing about your work. I will have my aide consult my calendar. I responded. But mother, the next time we converse, remember that the individual you are addressing is someone who dedicated her career to safeguarding this nation and everyone within it, including you. 3 weeks later, I was back in Afghanistan, directing another operation that would never make headline news. But this time, when I surveyed my reflection in the makeshift mirror of my command tent, I saw precisely the woman I had always been. Major General Viviana Clarkson, a woman who had earned every star on her collar and commanded every iota of respect she received. And for the first time in my existence, that was entirely sufficient.